it's good. And now, as a Mavs fan, I mean, you're not freaking out yet. No need to press the panic button. But there's hope. T-Wolves have hope now. They got a little bit of hope. The truth is, they've led every damn game in this series so far in clutch time. In the final 5 minutes, they found a way to get a lead, even though they haven't played great. Their superstars haven't really shown up. They showed up in this game a little bit, but not a lot. And honestly, this game, it foul trouble almost cost them in this game.
Yeah.
And dumb fouls down the stretch almost cost them in this game too, actually.
I mean, 4-point play for Luka. When you saw that, just we all were like, wow, y'all going to really blow this somehow?
I thought so. I started thinking, there's no way they can't do it. And yeah, that was just a bad basketball play by Anthony Edwards. And he's a good player, but that was, come on, man. Yeah, situationally, you got to be more aware of what's going on at the time. But Luka missed the free throw. So, hey. Luka, he missed the free throw, so did him a favor too. And then, they found a way to pull it out in clutch time. But once again, it came down to clutch time, and it came down to your superstars in clutch time. And this time it was Cat. He showed up in clutch time. He fouled out in clutch time too, but he actually showed out in clutch time. What was it, like 90-89, about 5+ minutes left, and it was him. He had those back-to-back 3-pointers. Boom, boom, and that didn't seal the deal because it still was a little tight late, but that's what gave Minnesota the boost they needed to close out the game.
That was the difference between that game 4, and game 1 through 3, was they didn't have those threes, and that's when Luka took over and he got his shots, and all of a sudden the Mavs or the Timberwolves were down 5 or 6, as opposed to still being up 2 or something like that. Because I mean, the Mavs were still in it when Kyrie threw that turnover. At the end of the game, they were still in it. The Mavs were a little bit. Again, I think there was 6 to 9 points that they were not expecting out of the Timberwolves with those Karl Anthony Town threes.
I agree with those threes. Yeah, because second half they came in. It was all second half. Yeah, in the first half he wasn't, but he did something that I thought about you, Patrick, when I was watching it. Because we talked about how bad he was, right? He was historically bad from 3-point range. He was actually at the worst 3-point percentage, I believe, for any player in the conference finals in the modern history of the NBA. I'll give you the stat later on, but we brought that up yesterday. And he didn't have I believe his first 3-pointer came after, it was like his 8th shot or something like that, 8th or 9th shot. And his first 6 shots, all getting to the basket.
Yeah.
All getting to the basket, getting to the paint.
Simple. Yeah. This is I'm not saying anything that is revolutionary in the world of basketball. This is the same stuff they told you, a year into the 3-point line being implemented in the NBA. It was if you're, hey man, if the 3-point shot's not falling, get to the bucket. Get to the bucket. The 3-point line's not, if the 3-point shot is not falling, get to the bucket. It gets lost now because you got to shoot yourself out of a slump. And for some reason, people think that means you have to keep shooting threes. You do have to keep shooting, but you don't have to keep shooting threes because you just want to see the ball go through the hoop. And once he saw it go through a few times, it opened it up where he started to feel a little bit better, and he got through that. I think Kyrie needed to do that a little bit more in that game because the threes he was taking were really low percentage threes, and then it felt like he was upset because he just couldn't hit a three. And you're like, well, if you set your feet and square it up, you could probably hit some. But every three he took, he was flying.
Off balance.
Like he was jumping and running full speed. And then jacked up a three, and you're like, well, no wonder these aren't going in. These are not. I think when he watches film, Kyrie will look at that game and go, oh, it wasn't that I was shooting bad. I was taking bad threes. And those are two very different things. I expected him to be
yelling Kobe as he shot it. Kobe! It's just like so random. It was just like,
I mean, those are the type of threes.
The degree of difficulty was unnecessary.
If you saw most like high school kids shoot a three like that, it's not touching rim.
Yeah.
It's touching the side of the backboard. It's going over the back. Like that's a three that most people, you can't get it very close because you're moving at a, you're trying to.
It's like literally a moving target. You made it a moving target because you're moving.
Yes. And so those types of threes are just really, really hard. And so I thought his shot selection wasn't great. And then he just he lost all confidence. And, he had some really good passes in that, but he could have still gotten inside and hit the short ones. But he was just passing everything at that point, and that's where he had a couple turnovers that he didn't want to have. But I think when he watches the film, he'll realize it wasn't that I was missing threes. It was I was taking bad threes. And that's two different arguments because it's when you're getting the wide open ones and missing them. That's what PJ Washington's been doing. PJ Washington hasn't had has not been shooting well at all from three in this series. But he's still taking the ones he's supposed to take.
Quality.
The big problem, PJ Washington, is they keep running him out of the corner, and he's a really good 3-point corner shooter. They keep getting him on the turn, and you don't want it. That's a harder shot. So he's not as good at that three. They keep putting him out there, and those are the threes he's getting open on.
Keep kind of suffocating him out of that corner.
Yeah.
No, just smart movement, man. And the stat I was looking for was Karl Anthony Towns. He, prior to this game, had the lowest 3-point percentage, 13.6% in a conference final series in NBA history. And like Patrick brought up yesterday, like, hey, man, okay, well, just stop taking the threes, which he did. He took, I think his first 7 shots were shots in the paint at the basket, and then came the 3-pointers because, once it falls, no matter where it falls from, the basket gets a little bit bigger. Definitely did for Cat in that second half. And he ended up, the thing that almost cost his team actually was, I don't know how you feel about it, was either the foul trouble. I mean, Anthony Edwards had 5 fouls. Rudy Gobert ended up with 5 fouls in this game. Big Cat fouled out the game with like 2 minutes left in the game. Remember, he got in foul trouble in the third, which could really cost him because he was hot. He scored 10 points in the third, I believe, in like the first 8 minutes. He was hot. He was rolling, especially because he only scored like 5 points in the first half. So to see him score those 10 in the second half, really to start out in the third quarter, it really re-energized that group. But then he got the 5th foul. And remember, that's when I think Finch lost his damn mind and got the tech. Was that right after that, I believe? Yeah, and he got the tech, which also the player said in the postgame that re-energized him, that Coach Wynn I guess it was, I don't know if he planned it, but strategically it worked out for him because the player said they got kind of energized because Coach was up losing his damn mind.
Well, and you got to remember, Chris Finch has been hiding behind the bench all season because he blew his knee out when a player ran into him in the Phoenix series. So he's not even on the sideline. And he basically comes off of it with a blown knee, limping up to the ref to be like, you can't cost us this game.
Hobbling around.
Which, by the way, he should be mad at Karl Anthony Towns for that penalty on that foul. But because that was, it was, those are the fouls.
When you got 4. Yeah,
when you got 4 and you're trying to dive into guys to pick it up. And you saw the difference of that with Luka, which also, I don't like what Luka did to get that foul on Karl Anthony Towns. I'm not a fan of that play either, but you saw the difference of the two, which is Karl Anthony Towns got Luka in the air, and then he jumped into him, and then Luka got Karl Anthony Towns coming forward, and the difference was the guy coming forward versus not. I don't like either one of them, but that was the difference in it, and so you saw Karl Anthony Towns was trying to get the foul call, got him in the air, but he didn't jump forward at him, and then he dove straight into him. Those are the fouls that refs are trying to get more rid of. They don't like those because they're just not fun. No one likes watching that type of basketball.
Yeah, it's basically found a loophole in the interpretation of the foul, and you're using it. They don't
that was, I think,
the spirit of it.
Yeah, I think that was more of, you get that. But that was what I was saying is a lot of those Karl Anthony Towns were just dumb fouls where you feel like he would have probably got the benefit of the doubt on a lot more calls and not gotten in foul trouble in a game 4 that's an elimination game. That if they weren't, with where the ball's at and right in front of the officials and everyone's looking at you and you just make a dumb decision and fall on somebody or you run into somebody.
The ref's like, hey, I'm here, dude. Did you not recognize I'm right here?
And so I think there was just some of those that you just understood you had to go after. And, they finally at the end of the game too, the Timberwolves were attacking Luka Doncic by just trying to get the switch on to Rudy Gobert. And Rudy Gobert just kept going up into him and getting fouls on Luka at the end of the game. It was a weird game, and that both guys were, kind of picking up dumb fouls, but it was because the teams were trying to switch everybody onto the matchups they wanted to get, and no one was hitting threes as well until Karl Anthony Towns was hitting at the end. So they all just were driving in and trying to get contact. Yeah, and they saw how the game was being officiated, and they kept doing it. I think you'll see the refs swallow their whistle a little bit more in game 5, just judging by how that game went and the reviews and everything that went through in that one. I'm guessing the NBA may call them up and say that's not the game that anybody really wanted to see. Like they like the game was close, and it wasn't that you called it uneven. It was just too many whistles.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. No, I agree with you on that. That's it was kind of, especially down the stretch.
Yeah.
The game, it got pretty ugly in terms of just, it wasn't aesthetically pleasing to watch.